All right. We're back for another late show, still live from Los Angeles. This is your host, Young Brando. We're once again with you with another Watch Talk broadcast. We have a few subjects that I would like to cover that are near and dear to my heart. We're going to start with the new Messina Lab collaboration. As you know, Messina Lab is established by the experienced and very talented and world-renowned watchmaker William Messina, and every so often he comes up with a collaboration with another established brand, and usually produces these wonderful uh, editions of watches that are icons already, kind of dabbling in this neo vintage genre in a way, revival of iconic watches. Most recently, of course, we had covered Masena Lab through their collaboration with another brand that I really like, Habring 2, the Austrian duo of Richard and Maria Habring. Um, they had come up with a special edition of what became the new flagship product of Habring 2, which is monopusher perpetual calendar chronograph, um, that is heavily inspired by the aesthetics of 1518, which is, of course, legendary and original reference of perpetual calendar chronograph, especially when it comes to serial production. Now, of course, this particular model, both in terms of Habring's own watchmaking career and uh, in terms of Habring 2's product lineup, makes sense in so many other ways, and I will cover that in an upcoming video. As you know, Richard Habring himself was part of IWC's movement production. He was the one who came up with the module that allowed them to produce a split-second chronograph, what they called the Doppelchronograph, from a Valjoux base. And that practice of modification and modulation is something that he, of course, carried over to Habring 2 in terms of the core of movements that he produced. The company started by building things on the Valjoux 7750 base, that workhorse self-winding chronograph caliber, but nowadays they make everything independently, sourcing parts when necessary through their own manufacturers, and assembling everything in-house. So things have changed quite a bit. But yes, it needs to be said that before this, Habring 2 did have a split-second perpetual calendar chronograph. Of course, when Habring was still at IWC, to celebrate the 10th anniversary of Da Vinci, which was IWC's grand achievement, really, when they came out with it in mid-80s as their version of the perpetual calendar chronograph, built on the Valjoux 7750 base through Kurt Klaus's ingenious implementation. In the 10th anniversary of the Da Vinci, in fact, they reintroduced it as a split-second chronograph, and it was kind of a meaningful event as well, because for the 10th anniversary, the watch now had 10 hands since it became a split-second chronograph. But this particular model that Hubling 2 produced with Masina Lab is said to have been inspired by a black and white photograph of 1518. And if you know the model, you'll almost immediately recognize it. Of course, there's a little bit of a reversal there, since in Patek's classical reference, the moon phase indicator is at 6 o'clock rather than 12. No matter, right? I actually prefer myself to see the moon phase at 12 o'clock, because it really brings it into focus in a very special way. And this watch is already sold out for the next year and the year after. So unfortunately, there's not much else we can talk about this particular watch. Thankfully, the two watches they released today in collaboration with Mate Tissot, which represents their take on the Type 20, are still available. At least one of them is. Basically, we are talking about 125 watches in total. 25 of them are actually self-winding flyback chronographs in this classic two-register layout, as you can observe here. And you also have a 99 more in this particular configuration, which has a hand-wound Sellita movement powering it. So let's talk first about the one that sold out very quickly, and that was made in 25 pieces with this heavily vintage-inspired design, not only because it is reviving an established icon, but also in terms of its aesthetics. Of course, you have these oversized and even outsized Arabic numerals, right? Even in a larger font than you would see in traditional Type 20 watches. And you have this matte black dial against which you have some wonderful contrast with a very almost pumpkin-like, but certainly kind of yellow burning into orange kind of shade on the luminous material, which harkens back to really years and years of aging, rather than something that maybe looks like superficially aged in a way that we today call faux tina as opposed to patina. This unfortunately was sold out pretty quickly. A few reasons for that. Of course, one reason was that this is actually more true to form, in the sense that it is a flyback chronograph, even though it is powered by a self-winding movement, unlike manual base, which was the case with the original Type 20 specification. And of course, this was in a more limited number, namely 25. Both of these models were inspired by Mate Tissot Mate Tissot Type 20 that William Messina himself holds in his collection. I should rather clarify what a Type 20 is. First and foremost, I am wearing, by the way, as it happens, my Type 20 today on an Alcantara strap in dark brown. Let's see if we can get this to focus right here without moving too much. I love this strap. I like the fact it's vegan as well, and that dark brown shade really fits well with the genre of the watch. So Type 20 was basically the name of a French military specification, namely, it was a commission by the aerial forces of the French Navy for chronograph watches, with also, of course, navigational capability for their pilots. Right? That's why, for example, the standard no-date model that was revived in the modern Breguet line from 1994, 1995, up until quite recently, up until a few years ago, was called Aéronaval, right? Short for Aéronautique Navale, Aerial Forces of the French Navy. And these were supposed to be flyback chronographs with a rotational bezel that usually had this 12-hour indicator, large Arabic numerals for maximum legibility against a black dial, a 2 or 3 register layout, but in each case, the minute counter, which was traditionally at 3 o'clock, was in an enlarged scale as opposed to the continuously running seconds and what sometimes existed as an hour counter at 6 o'clock. And the reason for that was twofold. One, of course, minute counter was in many ways for pilot maneuvers more important than the hour counter, more of an immediate necessity. But more importantly, as you can see from the particular gradation or graduation of the minute counter, it is actually at least still aesthetically preserved to represent 15 minutes. And 15 minutes was basically the ideal time for preparing an aircraft at the time in the 50s for launch, for takeoff. So this is a very true to form, very beautiful neo-vintage watch that Masséna Lab produced with Maté Tissot. And Maté Tissot, not to be confused with another Swiss manufacturer, Tissot, was actually the subcontractor for Breguet. Breguet won one of the contracts, perhaps the contract to produce the Type 20 watches for the Air Forces of the French Navy. However, I don't think they have actually produced a single one of them. And that's the information that Masséna Lab provides there as well. In fact, they had Maté Tissot produce that initial order, at least, of 2,000 watches for them, which was then branded Breguet at noon, at 12 o'clock there on the face of the watch. In either case, nowadays, both in the mil-spec or military-issued versions, as well as the civilian versions of vintage Type 20s, you can still find both Breguet and Maté Tissot in the market. And of course, the ones that have Breguet on the dial cost multiple times than the ones that have Maté Tissot on the dial, even though they are, by all accounts, the same watch. I'm not saying it shouldn't be that way, right? At the end of the day, that's exactly what matters when it comes to vintage collectibles. I do remember that famous Talking Watches episode uh, with John Goldberger and Ben Clymer, of course, when Ben Clymer was asking a very simple question like, why do all these watches have the same movement inside them and Rolex costs more? And of course, Goldberger talked about aspects of design, that the case shape is a little more timeless, but finally just cut it short by saying, is Rolex. Is Rolex. So if something is branded Rolex, vintage or contemporary, it is going to mark and hold a certain value in a way that's another brand won't. And even here, when you have at stake the same manufacturer producing the same watch, but with two different brands, the one that is branded Breguet, which is immediately recognizable and immediately um, connected to some notion of high horological watchmaking, artistic craft, reliability, beauty, elitism, of course, costs more than Mate Tissot, which, even if it is existent today, is not very popular and is always confused with Tissot somehow, even though there is absolutely no relation between the two brands. Um, and it's not their fault. It doesn't make it less of a watch. And I actually appreciate the fact that Masséna Lab reached out to Mate Tissot to make this sort of collaboration and produce these watches. Unfortunately, the flyback version of this chronograph is already sold out. It was actually a beautiful package. Was based on the Arola Caliber 7750 with the flyback function, which is a self-winding piece, and therefore had actually very similar dimensions to my piece here, 38.5 millimeter in case diameter, and I believe probably around, yes, all 14.6 millimeter in case thickness. Both models come with two straps. One is a suede brown calfskin strap, and this type of Bund, kind of a slim Bund, brown suede calfskin strap as well. Quite a nice piece. The other piece, I think it's, in a way, I think it's aesthetically speaking, it's just as attractive, or let me put it, it has its own charm. Uh, I kind of like the fact that this model has the size of the numerals just right, even though the patina on the dial seems a little more artificial, in the sense that it looks too good to be true for a watch that is going to be new out of the box. There are 99 of these. These are also priced a little cheaper. The earlier flyback model that I've shown just a second ago was priced at $3,000. This is priced at $2,000 without the flyback function, with a hand winding caliber. Yeah, in this case, I think it's still a pretty attractive look, but I think this one looks a little more contrived, for the lack of a better word. Again, no offense. I think it's a very handsome watch. It's a very good look. It's neo vintage through and through. A little excessive, in my opinion. Kind of splits the difference between oversized numerals, um, going with something more traditional and more proportional. whereas it ends up with this um, a little excessively cosmetic appearance of kind of chocolate brown dial with almost perfect you know, eggshell colored patina, so on and so forth. Perhaps looks a little too good to be true, but is not no less handsome for that. I think the fact that they stuck to the vintage script of the brand Mate Tissot is very attractive. Of course, the fact that they preserved the big eye look, in which, as I mentioned before, the minute counter is a little bit larger in size compared to the running seconds. Oh man, thank you so much, Kevin. KB, thank you, man. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much. Um, St. Peter says, "Are you doing stand up tonight?" Something like that. I'm being comical. Um, Jake Brooks says, "Brando is big styling." Hey, man. So thank you so much. This is great. I'm still in the middle of a move, guys. I didn't wanna be away for too long. Um, so I came back today. Tomorrow maybe I will have something special. Who knows? Maybe I will get a room in a hotel and get like half a dozen bottles of liquor and run a show for the entire day. Who knows? But I wanted to have at least another show to let off some steam, uh, stay in shape, and just have some watch talk for you guys. So I'm looking forward to seeing you all in the birthday/celebration stream tomorrow. But it's great to have you here today, and thank you both KB and JB for your contributions. I really appreciate both of you. So as I was saying, I really do appreciate the fact that they made this reissue, that they chose to honor Mate Tissot, which really among all these different producers um, of Type 20 uh, specification watches are probably the least known and least respected. People even know Dodin and Arin, and people even know that there are Girard-Perregaux branded Type 20s, which are said to be produced also by Mate Tissot. People know all these things. They get their flowers. Mate Tissot usually doesn't. So I appreciate the fact that William Messina reached out to them and came up with this collaboration. I like the fact that they focused on the two register look, which I think is a little more nostalgic. Um, I do appreciate the fact that they made the watches look more neo-vintage than absolutely contemporary. After all, Mate Tissot does the more contemporary look on their own line in terms of this genre of watches. So you're welcome to check them out separately as well. Um, and I like the fact that they offer two different kinds of options, right? Both in different price points, one with hand wound movement, one with self winding movement, one with a flyback option, one without, one that has this sort of very stylized, still neo vintage look, the other perhaps a little more overwrought vintage vibe, um, but more in classic proportions. Let's focus on the one that they still have in stock. This is the one they call the Tribute chronograph, Type 20 Tribute chronograph. That's right under $2,000. You can still get them. There's still less than 100 of them. I'm sure they will be selling out soon. It was just released today. This one has a nice 63-hour power reserve on that SW511 MBHB hand-wound Sellita caliber at full charge. Beats at 4 hertz, which is 28,800 half oscillations per hour. And again, it comes with two brown suede calfskin straps, one a typical two-piece, and the other in this slim aesthetic of a Bund strap. And the proportions remain the same in this one as well, since I guess they manufactured only one type of the case, 38.5 millimeter in diameter and with 14.6 millimeter case. Of course, you might have expected the hand-wound version to be a little slimmer, perhaps, but again, this is a very small limited edition run, so they probably didn't want to make two different kinds of cases to keep the costs at a certain level. I understand that. I appreciate that. Still great work. I think this is gonna go down as one of the surprise but interesting releases of the year. Just a couple of days ago, William Messina had posted on his Instagram a picture of his personal Type 20, and I didn't know what it meant then. I didn't realize that it was kind of way of announcing this particular release, but here it is, just so we get a taste. This is Mr. Massena's very own Breguet Type 20, on which these two releases are modeled. The Type 20 flyback chronograph that was priced at $3,000 and was immediately available in 25 pieces has already sold out. The model that actually is aesthetically closer to this one has a manual caliber that nevertheless does not have the flyback function. That one is still available. They're making 2 runs of that. 50 of them are still immediately available. I don't know if that 50 piece is yet sold out, and they have an additional 49 pieces most certainly still available that will be shipping out in December. So great release by the real Messina, by William Messina, through a collaboration with Mattei Tissot under the Messina Lab brand. Much kudos. It's a great release. And we have some auction-related news. We can always return back to the new releases somehow. We have talked a little bit about this. Mark Cho is selling a great part of his collection, which includes this Lange 1 Soiree, white gold with a kind of silver dial on a matching vintage style beads of rice bracelets, which includes this mid-sized Patek Philippe Nautilus 3800. It is actually a watch that's been modified by Patek Philippe itself. 3800 as a reference is very interesting. It's a few millimeters smaller than the original Jumbo, roughly around 36 millimeter in terms of its diameter. Therefore, it can be more desirable or more wearable for many different kinds of people. So it's something to look out for. Certainly presented an incredible deal just a few years ago, an incredible deal about 5 years ago. This is an example that was actually sent back to service to Patek Philippe by the owner at the time, who asked for this particular dial that was apparently only available in certain two-tone versions of the watch, and wanted it to be matched with this set of Dauphine hands. So everything is original Patek Philippe. Everything is original to the Nautilus range. However, in this particular configuration, there was never an example of the Nautilus that left the factory looking exactly like this. However, both the certificate of origin and the documentation apparently that testifies to these specific changes made at Patek Philippe Geneva accompany the watch. So at least you know whatever was changed about the watch was done at the special request of the customer by the manufacturer, which is just about the only way you can justify something like this. At the end of the day, you have very unique, possibly one-of-a-kind Patek Philippe watch, one-of-a-kind mid-sized Nautilus that must still command quite an interesting price point. And we will see that once the catalog is officially released. This is going to be an online-only auction, kind of in the lead up to the to New York one. Like it's sandwiched right between the Hong Kong auction that will take place on the 20th and 29th, and the New York auction that's taking place at 10 and 11 December by Philips Watches. So you have this one owner auction that's called the Beauty in Everything. That's going to take place online only between November 30th and December 6th. There is, again, you can see Grand Seiko Elegance Spring Drive Snowflake, which is SBGZ 001 in platinum, one of 30. It was a boutique exclusive at the time, has this sort of texture, or rather decoration, on the platinum case itself that sort of matches the dial. This would be a very interesting piece for those of you who like the spring drive movement as an invention. As you know, that's a caliber that is a hybrid of mechanical watch movement and quartz regulation, and the centrally deployed seconds has a very pleasant sweep that in a way outdoes in its elegance most mechanical movements that I know. I'm not a huge fan, but I still appreciate it at a certain level. Grand Seiko Elegance Spring Drive Snowflake in a platinum boutique only edition. This is another watch that's going on sale. An example of the collaboration that the Armory, Mark Cho's menswear company, did with H. Moza Company is also going for sale. This is the all stainless steel version of the Endeavor small seconds that they did it's a model they called Total Eclipse, with their trademark Vanta Black for the dial color. Very much a piece that reflects simplicity, uh, classical beauty, and traditional elegance. The dimensions of the watch itself will be quite attractive, I think, for a lot of people. Of course, again, we're talking about a watch that's been sold out in its original release. Um, they did a very fair and interesting way of allocating these watches that went through a lottery. Basically, you put down a deposit and put down your name, and if you qualified for it, you could buy the watch. If you did not, your deposit was immediately refunded. There were 28 of these all steel pieces, 28 of them that had pink gold accents, both quite beautiful, both classically proportioned at 38 millimeter in diameter, and both exhibiting that same kind of design, which really looks every bit a contemporary, stylish take on traditional dress watch. This was a great collaboration. I'm very excited to see one of them in an auction so early, and as part of this kind of special event, to see how they will perform. And I'm a little biased because, one, I like the Armory, even though I have no other kind of connection to them. I like their style. I like every single person I met in that store. All the staff is just the friendliest, and again, great people. But all of that being said, I think uh, my self-interest is simply that I like Mose when they produce watches like this. I'm much less interested in the kind of social media slash viral campaign oriented um, gimmicks and games they play once every so often. Um, I don't have anything against the kind of streetwear collaborations that they do. I actually love that, even though I'm not at all intrigued by the actual design of the uh, Steamliner as a watch. I do love the chronograph movement in that watch. Not much of an interest. Beyond that, it's kind of, yeah, I'm not going to go into that analogy. My apologies, but it looks better from the back than it does from the front. Let me just stop there. Um, Another watch that was announced as part of this single owner online only auction, the Beauty and Everything, Mark Cho's personal collection, was an absolute classic again, 3940, that beautifully proportioned uh, version of Patek Philippe's classic complication, which is a perpetual calendar in a yellow gold case, 36 millimeter in diameter, an absolute classic, uh, arriving with its certificate of origin and presentation box, roughly from 1987. And just a couple of days ago, or maybe even yesterday, they had a little feature at, pardon me, at Hodinky, um, with Mark Cho. A great interview. Check it out whenever you have time. I think it's nice to uh, hear Mark Cho talking about his philosophy of watch collecting and how he sees in these watches an extension and an expression of his style, and how he doesn't mind letting go of pieces that no longer uh, give him that sort of satisfaction, that no longer serve him um, that purpose in expressing what he feels is his authentic self. So I appreciate that. There are a few here are a few watches that he's selling. Some again are because he grew out of love with them. Some because he thinks they're too large for him, which is not a problem, as he repeats through the interview in and of itself. But certainly, if something is not sized right for you, and he knows this better than everyone else as a clothier, as someone who is in menswear, uh, if something is out of proportion, it becomes a statement on its own, and you cannot have an entire collection of statement pieces that are outsized for you, or that are all way too small and dime sized for you. So the first up here was the IWC Jubilee Portuguese reference 5441. And this is an absolutely beautiful reissue of the classic oversized dress watch by the International Watch Company, IWC, as they are more affectionately known, in platinum, with this beautiful movement, which Mark Cho says is kind of an a visual watchmaking masterclass, because the layout of the movement, in terms of the architecture of the bridges, just really exhibits all the relevant and all the moving pieces of that classic caliber 982. Beautiful piece, celebrating that particular jubilee in 1993, 125th for IWC, and it is a very special edition of their classic oversized dress watch, Portuguesa, reference 5441. I want to return to the chat a little bit. Basil is there. Hey, love you, man. Thank you. Thank you. Um, yeah, it's getting cold here, man. It's I just put on a puffer jacket on top of a shirt. It's this is not even trying hard, but I'm trying just a little bit. Watch Nicholas, it's lovely to see you, man. It's lovely to have you on board. Watch people, watch people. Um, what makes your garden grow? Jake Brooks says, I saw a rose gold Daytona at dinner tonight in the wild. Rose gold Rolex is quite a statement, but I love it. I love it. I love the fact that I've seen, you know what? I don't know what's happening, but I started seeing again luxury watches in droves. Beverly Hills was full of them again. I don't know if people are becoming emboldened. Uh, I don't know if people simply stopped caring, uh, or simply that they realized, hey, we have limited time on this earth. We might as well enjoy what we have. Let's wear them, and let's enjoy them while we can. And whatever happens, happens. And again, always exercise common sense. Always be situationally aware. Always look around you, but never make that fear um, put you into submission, and make you relegate some of your favorite watches into a life in a safety deposit box. Um, Caliber 982 is kind of holds a pride of place for IWC. So whenever you can see it out in the open, it's always beautifully uh, put together and nicely finished. It's not going to be the most um, beautiful hand finish that you will see. It's largely done by machine. Whatever is finalized by hand is not all that intricate or flashy. But overall, I think the movement is just so simple and aesthetically pleasing, taking after, of course, classic pocket watch movements in terms of its architecture. I love it. I love it. I think if you ask me personally, I think IWC's hand wound dress watch calibers are um, very special. Because it's not even just limited to the 982. I would say caliber 89, for example, is really beautiful as well. That's a mid-century dress watch caliber by IWC, and again, even though that usually arrives in a closed case back, the architecture of it is as Spartan as it is quite beautiful, and whenever you see the case back popped open, it's I think still quite a feast. Not in the way, again, not in the way that you would see it in a piece by Kari Voutilainen, perhaps, or even in a chronograph movement as it is hand finished and put together by some of the immortals, like Erlang und Söhne. But anyway, still, like something like this, for example. I think this is caliber 88 rather than 89, but um, again, that 982, the more modern 90s version, was of course a little more overwrought because again, it was a caliber that was assembled and finally finished for exhibition. This is something that spent 99% of its lifetime behind a case back, but still, I think, quite appealing in its simplistic and no holds barred layout. So let's see if there were any other watches that we didn't see in the Beauty and Everything Mark Cho single owner auction. We have talked about this Nautilus. He talks. He gives a little more details here. Cho says, "I've had around 8 Nautiluses in my life, and the 38 is the first Nautilus I ever really wanted. After buying and selling, this is the last one I kept. I was adamant that I would not let this go uh, because of how unusual and likely unique it is. And as you see, this is that sunburst gray dial with these heavily graduated and oversized minutes and seconds track. I have the paperwork. He says for the dial and hand swap, which was done by Patek itself, as requested by the original owner. The dial came from another 3800 that was two-tone. The Dauphine hands came from another variation of the 3800. At that time, this was seen as a matter of customer service for a VIP, and he justifies it beautifully here. Mark Cho, I really appreciate you. You're a gentleman of style and also quite eloquent. It's similar to how when you buy a navy blazer from us and it has horn buttons, we'll put mother of pearl buttons on there if you want. We respect the customer's wishes and also see its value as an idea of self-expression. So here you have what you have is a unique Patek Philippe Nautilus watch in that mid-sized version, reference 3800, that was modified by Patek Philippe itself according to the customer's wishes. He has another watch that he's getting rid of because it simply wears too big for him. This is Calibre 1, heure sautante, jumping hours watch by Chanel. I think they simply call it Chanel Monsieur. You see the jumping hour at the bottom half of the watch, where traditionally 6 o'clock would be. Right above it are the running seconds, and up top in this ring you have the 60 seconds as well. I think it's a very nice watch. It is actually finished in a case that is in Chanel's proprietary beige gold. The movement itself is caliber designed by Romain Gauthier, one of the hottest independent watchmakers still. And it's a very nicely finished movement to, again, in its own simplistic but beautiful way. And it's, again, it comes from a fashion company, but it's not a fashion watch at all. And as you know, Chanel is a company that has been making big moves in terms of watchmaking in the recent years. They have a stake in Kenissi, and Kenissi, as you know, is the movement manufacturer that is well known for making manufactured calibers for Tudor, among others. Chanel has a stake in that manufacturer. Chanel has a stake in FP Journe. Chanel has its own case-making company that specializes in experimental materials such as ceramic, which is, of course, well known in their J12 series of watches. Chanel also has their own manufacturer for watch crystals as well. They have basically their own ecosystem now for making watches at more or less every grade, but mostly at this more experimental boutique and perhaps even high horological level with certain collaborations, through certain collaborations with FP Journe. And as you know, FP Journe is not someone who necessarily shies away from or looks down upon collaborations as long as they're done with a certain purpose, as long as those collaborations add some value to his brand as well, which is something that he did with Harry Winston in Opus 1, which remains a very legendary and collectible piece. Let's take a quick look at that. So the the Chanel Monsieur that we have seen here is certainly a very nice piece that expresses that um, aspiration of Chanel to be more widely recognized as a serious watchmaker and not simply a fashion brand that dabbles in watches. This was the Harry Winston Opus 1 that this is the Harry Winston Opus 1 Tourbillon, which is a pièce unique, of course, one of a kind, power reserve indicator, a separate dial at where traditionally 3 o'clock would be for hours and minutes, tourbillon at where you would have traditionally 9 o'clock, beautiful, unique powder pink dial, that iconic Harry Winston watch case that takes after the facade of their store on Madison Avenue. Of course, this was a lovely, lovely piece. It was, of course, a variant, as SJX says here, of the fourth generation FP Jean Tourbillon Remontoir d'Égalité. The Opus 1 Tourbillon was part of the inaugural project of the Opus series, the annual independent watchmaker collaboration invented by Max Büsser, who was at that time the head of watches, head of product of watches in Harry Winston. So F. Bergeron has done these kinds of collaborations before when they made sense. Why not with Chanel as well, which is a company that has heavily invested in his manufacture. So that's something to look forward to. That's something to keep in mind for the future. Chanel is coming as a watchmaker. We will see how seriously people will take them. We'll see how much they will fare. But they are coming. They haven't built that entire ecosystem where they basically have the possibility of vertically integrating in their own way anything from the beating heart of the watch to the case to the crystal and of course everything else. Another collaboration that caught me off guard a little bit, even though it was announced, I think um, more than a year ago, was between Giorgio Armani and Parmigiani Fleurier, which again is one of the brands that I really love and appreciate on this channel. I love that entire ecosystem again in Fleurier that, of course, has Chopard, Ferdinand Berthoud, um, Parmigiani Fleurier, Beauvais, and some other brands. It's a very, very important watchmaking town by now. And Parmigiani Fleurier actually collaborated with Giorgio Armani, which was something achieved apparently on a very personal basis between Giorgio Armani and Michel Parmigiani, who know each other personally. There'll be 5 variations of the watch, apparently, only about 200 examples. And you basically have a watch that combines a few things that you would expect on the one hand from Parmigiani Fleurier, on the other hand from Giorgio Armani. I kind of like the fact that the this second markers are made to look like stitching and even hand stitching, especially around 11, which is the door number of Armani's flagship store. I actually quite like the cushion slash T-shaped case of the watch. I think especially in the stainless steel blue dial version, it looks quite amazing and striking. Um, I don't mind the moon phase indicator. I think for a time-only watch that doesn't even have dates, it's a little too romantic, even for someone like me. You know, I would rather have either just a time-only three-hander watch or time and date rather than a three-hander with a moon phase at 6 o'clock. But again, this is uh, a Giorgio Armani watch as much as it is a Parmigiani Fleurier watch. So it's expected that it would have some stylistic um, flourish that can't be immediately rationalized and explained by a kind of logical exposition. At the end of the day, a moon phase indicator is a romantic complication more than a useful complication. And why not have it in this sort of special collaboration of a limited run of pieces? I think it's great. The one thing I don't really like about this watch is the fact that it is a circular movement in a cushion-shaped case. I know it's extremely rare that watchmakers produce uh, appropriately shaped and formed movements for cases that are not round. Jaeger-LeCoultre does it day in, day out, of course, for the Reverso. The movements are almost always made for those cases, even if they might not fit perfectly. They're at least designed to follow the general outlines of that case, and for the most part, actually fit quite perfectly. I know Chopard, for their cushion-shaped watches, has perfectly shaped movements, which I will show in a bit. So one thing I did not like about this particular watch is the fact that it has a perfectly round shaped caliber, a perfectly round shaped watch movement for a highly stylized cushion shaped case. Otherwise, I actually love the fact that the rotor weight is decorated as if to seem like a piece of knitwear, right? You know, as if it is like a close-up of the texture of a nice sweater, um, which is actually also the kind of decoration they used at the center of the dial. They also have a kind of radial groove for the minutes indicator around the centerpiece of that dial, um, and have a cabochon on the crown in each case. And let's see if they have the exact division. This is a watch that will only be available at select Armani boutiques worldwide. Um, I tried to see if I can find them and see them in person in the Beverly Hills boutique. They had not arrived. I put my name down. Let's see if they call me back to show me anything. Um, but basically, they will be available in this pink gold case with a silver dial, stainless steel case with a blue dial, pink gold case with this sort of dark green slash maybe a little bit of a khaki tone, maybe taupe dial, you can say. I don't know what else is there. All right here. It says in steel, pink gold or yellow gold. For the steel, there is the option of either gray or blue. For the pink gold, you can get either ivory, which I call silver, or gray, which I call taupe. My apologies. And the yellow gold apparently comes exclusively with a black dial. And as I mentioned, uh, the Giorgio Armani 11 collection, which here is emphatically asserted with having the the Arabic numeral at 11 o'clock in italics, is the street number of the Giorgio Armani headquarters at Via Borgo Nuovo. So this was another collaboration that I found pretty interesting. Next up, I want to return to some auction talk. But before that, I think I will get a quick drink, but I want to leave you with at least some watches, some visuals of watches there. This is Philips's Hong Kong watch auction number 15, Roman numeral 15, and it has some interesting watches, some usual suspects, a lot of Rolexes that you should actually be able to get at retail from your authorized dealer, but for some reason they are not available, as you know. Other watches that are already icons in their own regard, from complicated Royal Oaks to Lange chronographs to iconic and special F.B. Jones, as well as other well-known Swiss watchmakers and up-and-coming independents and very niche boutique producers as well. Here's one watch I'm sure that you haven't seen much of anywhere else. Let's see if anyone will notice what is really special about this particular example of a Patek 5960A with a matching bracelet. Let's see if you guys can find it while I take a quick break for a drink of water. Okay, so this is Patek Philippe 5960/1A-011. It's actually, as you know, a very familiar model, very popular model that was discontinued in all its different guises just a couple of years ago. The steel one was discontinued first. That was immensely popular because, as I called it before, it is like a contemporary, youthful, and dynamic interpretation of what 1518 was at its time in the way that it combined into this compact 35 millimeter case all the capabilities of a perpetual calendar and a chronograph. Here you had in a sporty 40 millimeter stainless steel case both the capabilities of a flyback chronograph in this beautiful and utilitarian single register expression and an annual calendar, which of course is a Patek Philippe proprietary movement, a Patek Philippe invention, so to speak, even though at this point in time, of course, it is by no means exclusive to Patek Philippe. To quickly inform listeners who might not know what a flyback chronograph is, it is the kind of chronograph where you can use the reset button without having to stop the chronograph. So where in a normal chronograph you would have to press start to time an event, stop, reset, and start again for a new sequence. In a flyback chronograph, you will press start, and the minute you press reset, the second will snap back and start running immediately without you having to do anything, which allows you to basically time events in quick sequence. And when it comes to the annual calendar, it differs from both a perpetual calendar and what is sometimes called a complete calendar or a triple calendar, because unlike the perpetual calendar, it has to be actually adjusted on an annual basis. However, since it is actually programmed as a mechanical movement, to know the difference between months that have 30 days or 31 days, you have to only intervene in it once a year, and that is for the end of the month of February. And I think the reason I learned the Patek Philippe 5960 to 1518 beyond the combination of this sort of calendrical and chronographic functions was also the fact that this was the first in-house integrated chronograph caliber. That's when that was introduced in 5960, and of course 5960 was the first to also combine annual calendar with a chronograph for Patek Philippe. So when it was discontinued in stainless steel in 2018, and when it was completely discontinued in all the various iterations in 2021, last year, it was a sad occasion indeed. This is an example of it that's produced in 2016 for Leicester City. It's a model that was made in commemoration for their first and so far only title in the Premier League. And those of you who know the team will recognize the colors immediately, that blue and yellow. Of course, this makes lot 833 a very unique, very special watch indeed, especially for the right person, whether we are talking about a football fan, a Premiership fan, or specifically a Leicester City fan. You have a watch that not only has a dash of color on the dial that carries the colors of the team, but also a nice etching on the sapphire case back of the team symbol, which is a fox. Lot 833, which features this rare and unique 5960A Patek Philippe stainless steel annual calendar chronograph on a matching bracelet, is estimated to fetch somewhere between $76,900 to $154,000. This is understood to have been produced in less than I think they had the number somewhere here. All right, this is what it says. Made as an unnumbered special edition exclusively for the Leicester City Football Club. This was commissioned by the late owner, Mr. Vichai Srivadhanaprabha, as gifts to the players and coach for their wondrous effort in winning the English Premier League for the first time in the history of the club. Well, probably less than 30 examples. So that's very unique. That's very rare, and absolutely precious. I want to go all the way back and see some of the other watches, perhaps, that are less rare. 1055, yes, of course. Let me take a look at that. St. Peter. I'm guessing you're asking this one. Whoa. This is a true vintage piece. I don't know what happened to that dial. I want to read the lot essay now. You know, of all things, of course, I end up focusing on that red writing. You know, any vintage Rolex dial, as long as it has red writing against a black dial, you know, it's an absolute beauty, right? We can't say anything bad about it. It's so gorgeous. But I would like to know what made it so blacked out like that. It looks like all the lume has been cleaned. All right, let's start with the details though. This is a reference 6610 Rolex Explorer from 1955, roughly mid-50s, in that classic 36 millimeter version. The estimate runs somewhere between 20,500 to 32,100. And it's distinguished by that 50-meter depth rating written in red. Let's see what it says. This is the lot essay. Like many classic designs, Rolex Oyster has gradually evolved in the past decades while strongly adhering to its design DNA. All right, let's pull it out. Great. Like many of its peers in the Rolex family, the Explorer has been a constant and a backbone of the brand since its conception in 1953, in the wake of that historic ascent to Mount Everest, of course, in the Tenzing Norgay and Sir Edmund Hillary expedition. This model was released in 1955, reference 6610, a new generation Explorer that replaced the original caliber A296 with an upgraded caliber 1030. It was much slimmer than its bubbleback predecessor. A flatter case was designed to house the downsized movements, which became the standard for years to come. The reason that some earlier Rolex Oyster watches are called bubblebacks is because they have this convex case backs, right? That make them seem like they are bubbling up in the back. So that's why, hence the name bubbleback. Fully embracing the now iconic Explorer aesthetic, the dial on the present watch reads officially certified chronometer in place of superlative chronometer officially certified as seen on reference 1016. Featuring a classic black dial with an inverted triangle at 12 o'clock and Arabic numerals on the 3/4, the present example certainly stands out for its desirable qualities of a 1955 Explorer with red depth ratings, adds on the desirability. Red depth rating pieces are found between serial numbers 113,000 to 114,000 based on research. The galvanized dial with radium looms, gilt lettering, and minute track have also aged to perfection through ravages of time. Fitted with its original elongated Mercedes pattern gilt hands, it is sufficient to say this watch has been looked after well over 6 decades. There's no specification of why it looks like that. It really looks like it's Tina has been, the luminous material has been cleaned out. Though I don't know. I have never seen something that's exactly like this. So I would have to confer to my elders on this one. I will ask tomorrow to a friend who knows just a little bit better than I do. So I will get back to you guys, and maybe this will be part of the birthday / celebration stream to look at lot 1055, which is 6610 by Rolex. So once again, we're opening with usual suspects. 801 is an OP41 with the coral red dial with an estimate of 40 to 60 Hong Kong dollars. 802 is OP41 with the saffron yellow dial that has the same estimate, which in US dollars can be expressed as 5.1K to 7.7K. They are selling 803, a so-called Batman, which is 116710 BLNR. The GMT Master 2, the first GMT Master 2 with bicolor bezel insert in ceramic. That is selling with no reserve, but the estimated value is 6.4 to 12.8 thousand dollars. At 805, we have a new old stock Kermit, an early example as well. Kermit, of course, is the nickname that collectors gave to the 50th anniversary Submariner, a Submariner with an aluminum green aluminum bezel in that you know proprietary green of Rolex, even though it has many variations. This is an early example, roughly from year 2005, and it has an estimated value of 10.3K to 20.5K at lot 805. It is a reference 16610 LV for a lunette verte, of course, green bezel. We have a Hulk right next to it at lot 806. That is a 116610 LV. Again, lunette verte. This is the model that's replaced in the era of ceramic bezel inserts, the earlier model that we have just seen, and in fact, um, came also with a sunburst green dial to complete the package. This was a watch that wasn't well received at all in the beginning. It was understood to be too green, too gaudy. Honestly, I think it was mostly a very initial and somewhat of an immature reaction by some people without having seen the watch in person. Because once uh, the watch got out there, it got on people's wrists, it got on, it got out and about in the sunlight, in the office. People realized how much of a chameleon this watch actually is, how subtle it is in most lighting conditions, especially indoors, and only really shines through in direct sunlight, which is rather its desired effect. So, a beautiful, beautiful watch. I think a very collectible um, Rolex watch since it has been discontinued, along with the so-called Maxi dial super cases. With the new generation of the Submariner, you now have the so-called Starbucks that only has a ceramic green bezel. I think this was a very unique watch. This was an absolutely beautiful watch. This was a very Rolex watch, right? What else other than a green watch, from Rolex? Absolutely iconic. They're starting to come down a little bit and return back to the real world, to real world prices. So that's absolutely good news. Lot 806 is actually expected to fetch somewhere between 11,500 to 23,000 US dollars. Uh, we have Platinum Daytona at 809. This was the 50th anniversary Rolex Daytona, 116506. It is rendered in platinum, platinum case, matching platinum bracelet, an absolute unit of a watch. Um, it has an ice blue uh, sunburst dial, which Rolex reserves only for its platinum watches. It has some versions, one with the standard luminous index markers, which some people prefer, and more power to them. There's one with Eastern Arabic numerals that was made for Siddiqui, for that famous Rolex dealer that is based in um, in the Emirates and has, as you know, still to this day, the biggest Rolex boutique in the world. This is the example that has baguette cut diamonds at as index markers, and as you see, overall they're beautifully proportioned, um, in full in most indices. Um, Simple cut at the 3/4 and abbreviated at 2 o'clock and 10 o'clock with an applied coronet, putting the final touch at 12 o'clock. I think it's an absolutely beautiful configuration. That contrast between the mild and attractive tones of the ice blue dial and the reddish brown accent of the ceramic tachometer bezel in maroon. It's a very attractive piece, a very unique piece, but since it is unique, since it is so hard to acquire at retail, it can go for interesting prices indeed on auctions, and 809 has an estimated value of $77,000 to $154,000. I'm not going to go through every single one of these lots, but focus on some of the more interesting ones. This is honestly one of my absolute dream watches at number 812. It's an Audemars Piguet Royal Oak in its perpetual calendar configuration, with moon phase at 6 o'clock, leap year at 12, with also an additional weekly calendar on the Rejo as well. The dial color is in this absolutely magnificent and stunningly attractive salmon shade. And actually, this is a titanium watch. What a beauty. It's titanium all over, case and bracelets, exhibition case back with that skeletonized AP rotor in full gold. A full set, of course, a limited edition of 300 pieces. This is a 26615 Ti, not to be confused with the Rapper Ti. This is lot 812 with an estimated value of $103,000 to $205,000. 41 millimeters in diameter, so it's a little larger than the ideal sizing, to me, in my humble opinion, of a Royal Oak, but of course, quite appealing still. One of the most attractive things about Audemars Piguet Royal Oak perpetual calendars is, of course, the fact that they come in the exact same proportions, oftentimes, as the extra thin jumbo. So to have that sports watch look in those elegant and classical proportions with the prestige complication of a perpetual calendar in 39 millimeter diameter case, 7.5 millimeter in thickness. I think that's an absolute privilege. That's how these perpetual calendars were introduced. I understand, I understand that they have to expand the horizon a little bit and make different versions of it, but that's just my preference. This is still absolutely beautiful. 812, it is an Audemars Piguet Royal Oak perpetual calendar in titanium with a 41 millimeter case. limited edition of 300 pieces, estimated value of 103,000, 200 to $205,000. Hey Barry, nice to see you, man. Nice to see you. Yes, the Platinum Daytona is an absolutely. And Cedar says, I remember when a Hulk sold at auction for 90K. Yeah, um, I cannot believe how people have exploited the market and gouged the prices to such an extent. But thankfully, it was just a very limited period of time, and it's not coming back anytime soon. Lot number 813 is an A. Langonzone Datograph, their iconic chronograph in its first iteration that you can almost immediately recognize by the absence of a power reserve indicator at 6 o'clock and the Roman numerals at 2, 6, and 10 o'clock. Of course, if you were actually seeing it physically, holding it in hand, you would also realize very quickly that the proportions of this case are significantly or simply noticeably smaller as well. It is a 39 millimeter case rather than 40 and a half, almost 41 millimeter in the new generation. And it is also significantly thinner as well. But look at that L951.1 caliber. It is really of art, from the ebbing on those chronograph bridges to the heat blued screws to all those rubies that are set right into those gold chatons, to the swan neck regulator that wraps around those free hand engraved balance cock. It's just simply a joy to even look at in a still picture. Of course, what you have here is a column wheel flyback chronograph. In platinum, an early example from year 2001, with a black dial, of course. Very, very beautiful piece. The estimate is 41,000 to 80,800 for lot 813. These are also coming down, again, to realistic levels. This is never going to be really a cheap watch. They did used to be a little more affordable on the secondary markets. Nevertheless, A. Langonzone had an immense rise, immense ascendance in terms of its profile. It's also managed to attract an entirely different group of customers with the release of its own sporty watch in Odysseus or Odysseus. So I don't expect it to fall back to, I don't expect their well-known and appreciated models to fall all the way down to levels where Lange was just a connoisseur's brand, so it was an immense deal on the secondary market. But you have already started seeing very lovely versions of the Lange 1, Lange 1, with the old caliber based on JLC gear trains already returned back to low 20,000s. which are all great signs. And in this case, the datagraphs themselves are seemingly falling to 75, $80,000 range, depending on the year, condition, um, metal in this early iteration, for one reason or another, is less desired by the market. In my case, this is how I prefer them, and that's the beauty of watch collecting. You know, when you start expanding your knowledge base, when you start really figuring out what you like independently from the most recent trend, from the most um, consuming hype, from uh, whatever fad seems to have taken over everyone else. When you figure out what is your taste and your preference, and your self-expression most authentically in a wristwatch, you have a variety of options that are just relatively so much cheaper to everything else, and that's great. At 814, we have a very beautiful hype watch. Speaking of which, this is an FP Journe Chronomètre Bleu, their absolute entry level watch that really fills the claim of being blue from that very lively blue dial that has so many different shades from various angles to the bluish gunmetal gray uh, glint of the tandem case. It is an absolutely stunning watch. I've always loved, again, the simple hand wound movements of FP Journe executed here in pink gold. The finishing was never at the highest of high levels, but I think the architecture of the movement, um, the expression of its design, as well as the decoration of it, is still very attractive, very appealing. Chronomètre Bleu is slightly smaller than Chronomètre Sovereign. This is 39 millimeters. Chronomètre Sovereign is 40 millimeters, a little larger. Um, these pieces have fallen down a little bit, a tiny bit, on the secondary market to 70, 75,000 levels. Um, Nevertheless, I expect them to fall a little more. Still, I think it's a little unreasonably priced on the secondary market. I do like FP Journe. I think they do merit the list price of that is set by the brand, even though those have increased enormously in the last 5 years as well. But on the secondary market, I could never justify it myself. Lot 814 is valued at $32,000 to $58,000. This is an FP Journe Chronomètre Bleu. I will grab another drink of water. Please be patient. I will leave you with a visual of a rare FP Journe in platinum. All right. Thank you for staying put. St. Peter says pardon me, deserved hype for the chronomètre bleu. I agree and disagree. If we are saying that the watch is worthy of this sort of outsized demand and aspiration, I do agree. I think it is a beautiful watch. Not exactly what I'm looking for, but I can certainly appreciate it on so many levels. Um, if we are saying it justifies the kind of prices that it was going for in the secondary market just a few months ago, 85,000 plus, with listings that were almost getting to six digits, absolutely not. I don't, no time only watch for me will ever be worth that kind of money, especially not from FP Jaune, especially not at the chronomètre bleu. Let's calm down a little bit. We're not talking about Philippe Dufort, Simplicité, or um, even Kari Voutilainen, 28. So it's, I mean, it's just a time only watch that has a tantalum case. I know FP Jaune has been very successful in making people believe that he has himself discovered, indeed, dug up the mineral, the metal, and he's the inventor of tantalum or whatever else. I mean, everything is a little bit blown out of proportion. Audemars Piguet was very widely using tantalum from, I think, from late 80s onwards, but certainly very, very widely in its lineup uh, during 90s. So long before FP Jaune, brands like Audemars Piguet, Jaeger LeCoultre were using tantalum in their watches. Um, so the hype itself, yes, I think it's deserved. The prices that it started commanding in the secondary markets and that it still does to a certain extent, absolutely not. Um, this next piece is very interesting. Limited edition of FP wristwatch with a self-winding movement. Um, I don't actually know what I prefer when it comes to FP Jaune. I'm kind of two minds. I really like the design, the architecture of their hand wand movements, but I just absolutely love the decoration um, of their rotors for the self-winding movements. So this is a limited edition of the Octa Automatique in platinum that celebrates the 50th anniversary of diplomatic relations between uh, France and Chine, France and China. As you can see here, this is something that is remarked on the dial as well. It is an Octa Lune automatique, the 5-day power reserve expressed at 9 o'clock in hours. The running seconds is at roughly 4 3/4, and you have the moon phase at 7 o'clock, kind of big dates at 11 and a half as well. Again, a beautiful blue watch by FP Jaune that should command some interest because of its rarity, because of the fact that it comes as a special edition with its presentation box and documents. There was only apparently 10 pieces made. Wow. The official release of 10 pieces of this beautiful monochromatic dial in French blue with embossed red commemorative logo, where these pieces were only available from each of the 10 FB Jean boutiques worldwide, possibly with the addition of a handful more made by special request. Wow. I think this will certainly hit the high ceiling of this estimate, which is 30K to 60K in US dollars. 815, lot number 815, and FB Jean Octa Lune, a limited edition for the 50th anniversary of diplomatic relations between France and China. Another beauty at lot 816, which is an FB Jean with a remontoir d'égalité. It is what he calls a chronomètre optimum. It has deadbeat seconds, that is operated by the remontoir. I'm assuming the deadbeat seconds, I think, is displayed actually on the back right here, whereas the seconds counter on the face of the watch at 9 o'clock is actually continuously running. Very original dial design, very beautiful and expressive, and almost immediately recognizable by now as FB Jean through and through. And thanks to the biaxial EBHP escapement, the deadbeat seconds operated by the constant force remontoir, this watch has a very specific kind of chronometric accuracy. Of course, a 70-hour power reserve, I think, again, a beautiful watch, a great piece by F. Pigeon, very unique at lot number 816. This is F. Pigeon Chronomètre Optimum, $51,000 to $103,000 of estimated value. We have an interesting Alang und Söhne in lot number 817, apparently a limited edition of 100 pieces made for Buenos Aires. This is the early iteration of the Lange 1 time zone that you can recognize by this piece of script right here, Doppelfederhaus. It had the older generation of the movement that owed its power reserve capacity to dual spring barrels. That was later, with the improvement of the movement, deemed unnecessary. And you'll also see that these floating indicators for day and night in the two time zones is also eliminated. You simply have that that blue circle. It's a very nice execution of a dual time watch, if you ask me. I wish they found some sort of ingenious way of fitting this into a smaller Lange 1 case. But in either case, I think it's a very, very attractive piece, a very useful piece. You get not one, but two iconic Lange pushers to play around, to jump through the time zones, to cycle through the time zones. It's a very fun watch. It's a beautifully designed watch. It's a very utilitarian watch. In this case, it is executed in white gold, special edition, 1 of 100. It is estimated to sell somewhere between $25,000 to $51,000. And you see the old movement with the islands, and perhaps the 3/4 plate in German silver already taking on the years and some of the patina that has given its yellowish tints a more marked hue. Thank you, St. Peter. The birthday is tomorrow. Please come tomorrow as well. I appreciate you. Thank you for being here, and I will see you tomorrow. It is almost 10:30 here. I think I will go on for a little while longer, going through some of these auction previews for the Philips Hong Kong. I'll say this, by the way, it's Alexandre Rotby did something very kind for me. I was trying to buy one of the catalogs for the Royal Oak 50 years auction that they held in Geneva earlier this year. I just couldn't get this website system worked out. I reached out to Mr. Rotby, who is the head of Middle East and Europe for Philips watches, and asked about the catalogs, whether they had any left, with every intention of buying one. and he just asked for my address, my phone number, and next time I received a message from him, um, the catalog was on its way to me, and before I could uh, get back to him almost with anything more than thanks, I actually received the catalog in the mail. Um, what a brilliant person! What an amazing auctioneer! Certainly one of the best in the business, uh, but a also what an example of the kind of generosity that the Persian people are known for. Uh, Here's me adoring lot 22 in that auction, which is 14802 PT, the first generation of uh, Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Jumbo Extra Thins with an exhibition case back. That is 14802. And this is a model that is executed fully in platinum with a gorgeous and rare salmon dial with the Petite Tapisserie pattern. That is, of course, signature Royal Oak from its initial design by the legendary Gérald Jantin for the 1972 release, of course, in steel with cobalt blue dial at the time for reference number 5402. But yeah, that being said, guys, please follow me on Instagram as well. I post their watch-related content on a regular basis, and it really helps me build this really as a nascent social media empire than just a live stream channel. So I do appreciate you. I have a little bit of everything here, but mostly uh, content related to wristwatches and styles. So check it out. A lot of vintage watches, a lot of contemporary high horological pieces, wrist shots, deep dives into history through vintage advertisements. There's room for every single brand there, from Seiko 5 to Ferdinand Berthoud, and with a little bit of everything in between. So I would really appreciate to have you as followers there as well. All right, without further ado, let me return to the watch auction, Hong Kong, Roman numeral 15. At 819, we have a set of two very interesting pieces. Display of moon phases in the northern and southern hemisphere. Number 8 of an edition or run of 101, one in red gold, one in white gold. You can see Southern Cross on the uh, pink gold, Ursa Major on the white gold. These are the Grande Langevins, the larger cases, as you can see from the overlap of hours and minutes, and the moon phase indicator in this case, as well as the way that there is this sort of tangential touch between the oversized dates and the larger subdial as well. Still very beautiful watches. Um, very desirable, especially in this limited run from 2003. You can recognize immediately the early iterations of movements that were based on uh, gear trains inherited through Jaeger-LeCoultre by these islands that cover certain parts of the characteristic three-quarter um, German silver bridge plate that takes after the tradition of Saxonian pocket watchmaking. Two beautiful pieces sold as a set at lot 819 with an estimated value of 45,000 to 83,300. Again, one of my favorite watches by Vacheron Constantin. This is an example of the Mercator. Um, it is once again interesting retrograde expression of the time that I always loved, and in this case, uh, it also makes aesthetic sense too, because really this sort of um, these two hands that open up, close and snap back to close, um, really give most room for us to appreciate the cloisonné enamel map drawing in the back. Mercator is, of course, the name of that early modern Dutch-German cartographer. The layout of the hour and minute hand really look like a caliper that you would use to uh, make simple drawings and perfect circles. So it makes absolute sense in so many different ways. It's a beautiful piece, has a decent movement as well, which really, I think, sets itself apart in its visual and aesthetic expression of time rather than its own looks. This is a piece from 1997. It scales right under 36 millimeters in case diameter, so very much a classically proportioned dress watch in yellow gold with a map of Europe and Asia represented in traditional arts of cloisonné enamel. Beautiful, beautiful piece at 820 from Vacheron Constantin, reference number 43050, with an estimated value of $20,000 to $33,000. At lot number 82, we have one of my favorite Patek Philippe perpetual calendar chronograph references, which is the 3970. I do like 3970 because of its diminutive size, 36 millimeters. This is in yellow gold. Let me tell you why I like 36 millimeters, especially for this sort of complicated watch, because when in 1941, Patek came out with 1518, their first serially produced perpetual calendar chronograph, they basically showed their technical prowess in fitting into a 35 and a half millimeter case the kind of movement and complication that was previously reserved for a pocket watch, which is much larger, of course. So, what put Patek Philippe on the map was actually that ability, that caliber of watchmaking that could operate with less real estate, achieving much remarkable, much more remarkable results than before. In this case, you have a piece with 36 millimeter in diameter with an exhibition case back that shows off that beautiful perpetual calendar chronograph movement that is based on Nouvelle Lemania CH27 slash 2310, as was Patek's convention in those years, so as not to cheat the customer of that precious metal case material. They would give you an extra case back for exhibition case back watches. So you have to your cake and eat it too. This 3970 EJ-014 at lot number 822 is valued at $64,000 to $90,000. Thank you, Barry. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Oh, my friend is here. Hi, Ozzy.
How you doing?
I think you muted yourself. Can you hear me? Unmute.
Oh, there we go. Yep.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I can't hear you still.
Oh, it's still not working? Okay.
No.
Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2.
Ozzy, I
Testing 1 2.
trusted you, man.
No. Still no good?
You were supposed to
Testing 1 2.
you were supposed to bring balance to the force,
I'll rejoin.
not turn it to darkness. He's gonna be back, guys. Ozzy is like a computer genius, compared to poor little me, who has a hard time operating simple technology. And look at that. I mean, it's I'm embarrassed. I'm not gonna spend much, so many words on these new old stock 5711s. We will see many of them in years to come, and we can talk about the hype when the time comes. Hi, Ozzy.
How's this working? Or not?
No,
No.
I'm
maybe
not
it's you.
with you. It would have been a game, but I can't hear you at all. Speak again.
Testing 1 2.
Testing 1 2.
Okay, now I can hear you. Great.
Okay. I think it was a combination of a couple things. I think you might have had audio off because in general you're not listening, I guess. And then, but I was muted initially as well.
Okay, that's great. I'm glad our shared technical incompetence caused all of this. How you been, man? It's been a little while,
good.
Of course.
Yeah, slowly coming to grips with like having options and probably not using them. I don't know. I don't really want any more watches. It's sort of weird.
But listen, you were okay. So you have a big anniversary come January. Yeah. You wanted basically two precious metal Daytonas from them, from your Rolex authorized dealer for that anniversary, to which they were kind of lukewarm in the beginning. Hi, Junior.
Yeah, they're sort of, it's okay. Like I heard I could get one, and then I do have the second AD relationship going right now, and I think that could easily swing both. And also there's a lot of time between now and January. Things are going pretty badly on the gray market as far as I can tell, and the real world is also not faring too well. I think by January things will be pretty easy. But I have to really look. My wife, the gold Daytona didn't seem to fit her very well. So we'll see.
She didn't like how it sat on her wrist.
It didn't look right. It seems like it's a bigger watch than the steel version. The steel version looks okay on her wrist, but the gold it seems bigger. I don't know if it's psychological, because there is a psychological component. Once you feel the weight of a precious metal. No, don't scream into the microphone. Please don't do that. Yeah. I saw this really interesting image. Junior, please. Can you go to bed, okay? Can you go to bed?
For the sake of people who are listening on the headphones, otherwise I have all my
goodness,
and it can scream into my ear anytime. But let's not destroy the entire audience.
I thought this was a pretty interesting image, sort of ranking the brands.
Wait, where did this come from?
I was just floating around on Reddit. It's a really low quality image, but it was an interesting ranking.
Let's see. I think I've seen something like this years ago. Let's see if it has changed in any way and how it's expressed. Let's start with this. Okay, entry level. I can recognize. I mean, this is a very interesting grouping. These are watches that I wouldn't put together, honestly.
Yeah.
Seiko with Fossil, Seiko with Invicta.
Yeah, there's definitely a tier that needs to be lower than this. It's not just about price.
Yeah, I think so. Entry luxury. Okay.
I see. I don't think that Hamilton is luxury at all. Like it's entry something, but it's not.
What I don't understand, Austria. I think the problem I take with the terminology is, especially when it comes to terms like luxury or high horology, we eat up whatever the marketing of the brands serve us. Like, I don't see why it's desirable to be called luxury to begin with. Because I take it for granted that a mechanical watch, especially when you go into already 4 digits, that's a luxury purchase anyways. So I don't understand why it's a separate category to begin with. I mean, there's nothing to take pride in that. It is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Just move on. Find another way of categorizing these things, because I know some people get even more elitist and saying like, oh, you can't call Tudor or Tag Heuer luxury. I can't suffer that kind of elitist behavior either. I just don't understand why we valorize the term luxury in and of itself.
Yeah, I agree that it's probably some sort of tiering. I think, like, for example, in that entry luxury, you've got Marathon. That strikes me as being much closer to the brands in the tier below than that group that it's with.
To me, I try to look at brands. I don't have this sort of precise segmentation and hierarchy, but through their approach to their production, more or less. Like, for example, Yema, Unimatic, for me are micro brands because they focus on these sorts of vintage inspired, neo-vintage kind of style, reviving a lot of models that were once popular in usually some sort of limited run, but not really boutique exclusive kind of stuff. Still very affordable. To me, that's a certain genre. The under $1,000 level for industrially produced stuff, which is where Seiko, Hamilton, Citizen, excel, and Orient too, I guess. That's for me another genre. Stuff that's affordable but highly generic, like Hoya, like Longines, like Tissot, it's another genre. I would put,
Yeah,
for
yeah. There's a volume aspect to it too, like Nomos being in the same place as Tag is. It's just such a different thing altogether.
I think so. I mean, again, it's not. It's just a different form of organization. I don't, honestly, to be frank, I don't want to shit on the work of someone who put certainly some thought and some effort into preparing something like this. So no offense to the person who prepared it, but I think, yeah, I would. I just have a problem with the term luxury being so central to
Right, yeah.
the to the whole affair.
Yeah, it's just one dimension. And like, what does luxury mean? Like, how about maybe this isn't the only way to look at brands, but if the only dimension was quote unquote luxury, is this correct? I don't even know what luxury means, honestly.
Honestly, to me, I tried to simplify it, as you noticed, Oz. To me, it also doesn't mean anything, but if I were to define it in one sense when it relates to wristwatches, um, a mechanical wristwatch is a luxury because it is not a necessity. And if we want to have a price point to really have a threshold, I think already more than $1,000, that's a luxury watch purchase because it's something that you absolutely don't need, and you are really treating yourself to something for a story, for inspiration, for stylistic expression, to feel like you are part of something bigger, so on and so forth.
But I guess more important than price is some sort of perceived value, because if it was really just price, then some of these brands can just say that their watches are very, very expensive, and then that would be it. But really, that wouldn't change the watches. So it does come down to, do we see the level of detail, attention, engineering, and aesthetics that would warrant a price level, I guess.
Right. And also, think of it like this. I mean, this is the same segment in the current hierarchy we have in front of us, right? Rolex and Chopard. Rolex's dress watches, whether we are talking about, let's talk about Datejusts, right? It can be Jubilee with fluted bezel or smooth bezel on oyster bracelet, and anything in between. You're talking about a watch that is on the secondary market between $10,000 to $15,000, and list prices more or less correspond to it now, unless you're looking for something, the dial color that's extremely hot, or like the palm motif dial or the whim dial. I'm looking for something niche. That's the price point for on retail and on the secondary market. Well, Chopard makes damn good dress watches at that level, especially through the LUC manufacturer, which is their higher grades brand. But no one who is just entering the market would go for Chopard instead of Rolex. So I don't even know if Chopard is, for better or worse, comparable to Rolex. Same thing with Cora. So same thing with even Bulgari. Same thing with Breitling, for opposite reasons. I don't think anyone would think of Breitling in the same sentence as Rolex. With all due respect, I mean, it's
they had their heyday, right?
yeah,
in the noughties, they were super hot.
sure. And same thing with Bulgari. I mean, come on. Bulgari makes some amazing watches, but in what universe is it occupying the same segment, whatever you call that segment, luxury or whatever, as well? I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I noticed a few. This must be quite old. Well, it doesn't. It might not be that old, but I noticed that I don't think I see Hublot anywhere, and I don't see Richard Mille anywhere.
Yeah, someone with an agenda, clearly. No, I mean,
Yeah.
certainly, if you were to count like the unholy trifecta of brands that bring out the worst in their haters: Invicta, Richard Mille, Hublot.
Well, we do have Invicta down there, so
I know. We have Invicta, but we don't, like, Richard Mille and Hublot are conspicuously absent. I mean, it's very suspicious to me.
It's very conspicuous. I mean, those are, they're really big brands. For how much you like or don't like them, they are very big, very present.
Exactly. Love it or hate it. That's exactly the point. And yeah, certainly it's not something. The segmentation here is not something that you can quantify by the price point either, because Moza makes watches that are in many ways so much more accessible at a price point than AP, than Patek. So it's an interesting one. It's kind of a confusing one here, but I appreciate it. I appreciate.
Yeah, there's an attempt here, and maybe if they just actually spent some time to define what luxury is, then we may understand what they're trying to say more accurately.
Wow, Ozzy, you're expecting people in the watch space to think before they do something?
I was on a stream the other day with Bill over at Another Watch Snob, and he straight up had never heard of the Black Bay Pro, and after about 10 seconds of us, like Meech and myself, and I can't remember who else was there, praising the Black Bay Pro, he goes, "I'm buying this watch."
Which Bill was this?
Not a watch snob. He's looking at a lot of entry level watches, and he's a fun guy. But it was really fun. It blew me away. Just like he went from having never heard of the watch ever before to trying to buy it on Joma Shop, and the only reason he hasn't got it is his credit card was declined.
This is an amazing story. Not to laugh at someone else's misery, don't take me wrong, but look, I mean, to me, more than anything, it really testifies to literally what kind of universe we have for watches at this point in time, right? We all lament the disappearance of so many great brands due to the quartz crisis. And I miss some of them as intensely as other people do. I wish Universal Genève would come back at the level that it was before the quartz crisis. Be that as it may, we live at a time now where we are spoiled for choice. There are so many brands at every level, especially since Kickstarter and micro brands changed. There's so much out there at every price point that I shouldn't be actually surprised that someone hasn't heard about Black Bay Pro, because they're either focusing on watches at a few $100s a pop, or because they are chasing the next Creux Belforcet or Ferdinand Berthoud. They already pay $250,000 for every piece. So who cares about what Tudor has just released, right?
Yeah. I think it's easy for us to think that like the something like the Black Bay Pro release would be ever present, but the reality is it's Tudor's still not a known brand, and I have to check myself when I talk to someone who doesn't know anything about watches. Um, and so it's just not covered. Like no one covers it. Like maybe there were a few videos at the beginning, and if you're away that week, you'll never see the Black Bay Pro again.
Full on John says, bought a black dial PRX Powermatic 80 today. Extremely impressed. Yeah, that's a very nice watch, man.
Very cool.
For the money, that's an amazing watch. I don't know if he was trolling me on Instagram, but I posted a wrist shot of the new Vacheron Constantin 222. He says it looks like a Tissot PRX. So let's pull up the Tissot PRX with the black dial. Again, not to be.
That was a lovely 222. That's a vintage one, right?
No, that's actually the reissue.
Oh, that is the new. Okay.
Yeah.
I got the impression, I think just because you were in a dimly lit area, it made it look a little bit more nostalgic.
Right. I mean, I have a certain knack of making everything shadier than they originally are. But no, that was a les historiques, as they say, the reissue of the piece. The only way to really recognize it almost immediately is by that mirror polish on the rehaul. I don't know what's going on with that page. Let me see. Okay. Well, let's look at it just like this. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I know that's, on Fleabay and other resources, you can even find it cheaper, but already at $650 at the list price, this is a good deal for what
I'd personally consider getting the quartz version just as something that you can throw on and go, like a true luxury beater, basically, Like there's nothing like quartz in terms of never having to actually wind or set it. Does the quartz still have 3 hands?
Does it? I did not check because I
think it does. I'm just hoping that it doesn't. Then I'll buy it right now. I would. Like I really could use a watch as beautiful as this, and all metal with a bracelet of the quality of the PRX, but I would prefer a quartz for that sort of super beater.
It does have the. Yeah, it does have the second cent.
Yeah, I haven't resettled with myself whether or not I can't stand a jumping second hand. I've certainly not gotten back yet. I haven't bought anything with a quartz that has a second hand.
You can pretend that it's powered by a 1 second remontoir than a battery.
Yeah, exactly. It's actually a very fine movement.
Again, the way they quote unquote mindfuck us in this game of horology is quite interesting. Of course, the quartz one, what I appreciate, the quartz version is actually a different watch, right? Different dimensions, different kinds of dials. So it wears very differently, thinner. I don't remember by how much, but obviously thinner. So I appreciate that. I appreciate that they have some sort of segmentation between the two. But the Powermatic 80 is, that's Swatch Group's secret weapon, man. Like they have so many great self-winding pieces under $1,000. with with that movement, with some version of that movement in Tissot, in Certina, in I think Longines uses that movement as well. It's incredible. Hamilton, of course, has the Powermatic 80 movement in a
Yeah.
lot of their sub 1K watches. It's
I was particularly impressed when I originally saw it in Hamilton, like just spec wise, like it's kind of unexpectedly hitting it out of the ballpark.
Full on John says, by the way, Ganda, good morning to you. It's so nice to see you as well. Good morning across the pond. Full on John says, I was able to snag it for 500 out of the door. Huge sales on Amazon right now. Thinking of picking up the black leather strap for it as well.
Oh,
Nice.
interesting. Yeah, I guess Amazon's ramping up some of their early Black Friday sales.
That is true.
For all of your shitter needs.
Awesome.
There was actually luxury watches on some of these Amazon sales a few years back. Now, I haven't paid attention as much since, but I do remember Breitling and a Rolex going for sale on a Prime Day, like 2017 or something like that. Only for a few hours, but yeah, for sure. I don't remember whether it was a good price or not. So who knows?
But it was a sale. My favorite kind of sale, Aussie, by the way, is when people write the new price, higher price, of course, cross it off,
right.
and current price suddenly becomes a sale.
I do recommend people use Keepa.com, Keepa.com, not affiliated, but it gives you a price chart for anything listed on Amazon, which is very useful.
How the price fluctuates?
Yeah, you can pull it up. Pull up. We'll get a watch, probably one of these PRXs, and
hold on,
we can
John
see.
says, I like your style, Aussie. My father has the blue quartz PRX, just as nice. I will, though it misses every single second.
That would drive me up the wall a little bit if it's also missing the indices.
I mean, yeah,
it's beautiful.
I mean, it's a beautiful looking watch, but what Full on John says is not very encouraging in terms of QC.
Just order 3 of them and return the ones that are bad.
Full on John says the YouTuber the Watch Idiot has a tutorial. I'm glad he called himself the Watch Idiot, because there are so many that we have to know that he's a specific one. The Watch Idiot has a tutorial on how to do a second-hand removal. All right.
Interesting. Full on John, is that specifically for the PRX or just in general? I guess in general it's fine. Huh. I never really thought about that. You know, it takes a lot to take the... I guess I'm not removing the sapphire. I'm just taking the movement out.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't like doing that for brand new watch. And at $375, it's already pretty pricey. The only watch I've ever removed the movement of myself, it was already effectively broken. Like I had to replace the sapphire. So I didn't really mind going at it, because otherwise it would have been in the bin otherwise. But to take a brand new watch and remove the secondhand, I'd have to love the watch before I even started, honestly, to go to the effort. So, yeah, okay, I can do this. Let me give you a link.
Of course. Full on John says, also, I can't be, before actually liking the watch, so I just went with automatic from the start. Yeah, look, I mean, it is a biggish watch. I think the official measurement is 39 for the automatic one, but it does wear bigger since it's that kind of integrated bracelet design. So it's a large-ish watch. Yeah, like 39, 40 millimeters. I mean, I still like it, honestly. I might pick one up at some point, but I don't know. There's just so much all the time, so you can't buy them all, even when it's at this relatively accessible price point. It's just I have this sort of ridiculous and unreasonable commitment to Seiko at the beater level that I never think of anything else.
So this is the keeper link for the 35 millimeter listing. If you hit all on the bottom right, bottom right, yep, that's it. So we get the full time range. So it's been on the market for 179 days, and if you hover over the graph, it'll show you what the Amazon price was, as well as the best third party. Now, third party can sometimes be misleading because sometimes there's shipping fees associated with it that are astronomical. So, but
Yeah.
with the Amazon price, you know that it's free shipping. But if you can look near the release, like right near the beginning of the timeline, Amazon have sold this watch for $250.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So I would say I would hold off on this unless you saw it sort of re-enter that 280 and under price range. And again, I'm not affiliated, but you can hit track product and you say what price you want to be emailed when it goes under, and it'll actually alert you. So I've bought most of my watches this way, actually, or most of my shooters. No, not all my watches, just the shooters.
We of course, please, those of you who are just joining us, we say it with love if we use that word. I try not to use it, but we say it lovingly. I have 4 Seikos, that are all under $500. A lot of times under. When I bought them, the SKXs were $200 watches. So I wear them proudly.
Yeah, this is exactly how I got my SKX, how I got my Alpinist. They were like deep bargains basically when I got them each and every time. Like you can see, like sometimes there's like a little blip in the price where it's only down for like half a day. It's like, yeah, that's probably when I bought something.
Full on John, $2. Thank you so much. Thank you for the streams, and thank you, Full on John, for being here and sharing your new purchase. I think that's a very nice watch for the price. And 500 out of the door, I think, is for the Powermatic 80 version of the PRX quite a good deal. I mean, you can find it for a little bit less on eBay, but why bother if you can get it from an authorized dealer, at 500 even.
Although relatively pointless, it does look like these bracelets on the PRX have a quick release. If you see one of those photos from the back on the keeper link, if you see the case back, there's a quick release on the bracelet. So if you wanted to throw on your 6mm NATO strap, you can go at it quickly.
Oh, by the way, there is a company called Deluxe. Do you know this company?
I recently searched it because I saw someone's video on how they purchased a Cartier tank strap from Deluxe.
So they basically just came out. Again, no affiliation. They don't sponsor me.
Interesting.
Either, but they came out with an entire lineup of PRX straps, and not only in rubber. They do have them in quite, interesting rubbers, nubuck, goat leather, or at least the texture they are referring to, chèvre,
Hmm.
smooth calf skin.
I have to say that this is fantastic because obviously the PRX requires effectively some sort of customization to get this to work. The prices, however, while they're very normal for deluxe when they're targeting luxury watches, $180 for a strap for a PRX seems a little outrageous.
I agree. I mean,
Yeah.
the rubber straps are quite expensive. In fact, they are much more expensive than everything else. The calf skin leather and the canvas versions are just $100.
Hmm. But this would be lovely if these have a quick release. Then this is very easy swapping compared, because as I said, the bracelet on the PRX has these the quick release tab. So interesting to see if they. I'm not seeing anything yet, unfortunately.
Mm. Yeah,
There's no real indication. We see the underside; it just looks like spring bars.
let's see. Read more about the product. Yep, they are. Let me show. They are quick release as well. Deluxe's rubber straps. Right here.
Oh, okay. Huh.
Now, again, you're basically, like you said, you're investing a third of the watch's value into a single strap.
Yeah.
By all means, I understand that, but
I mean, my rubber B strap, which I consider expensive, $280 to fit onto my Explorer 2, and that is actually pretty custom because that 42 millimeter, that new generation Explorer 2 actually has a different lug width again from the previous generation. It goes up 1 millimeter more, so it is custom. There aren't many people who buy Explorer 2s full stop. And I think 280 is already expensive. I'm sure they build 100 times more PRXs, or at least I hope they do. It's a lovely watch. A lot of people should have it.
yeah.
Actually, that's an interesting question. I mean, I wonder what kind of volume there is on PRXs versus Explorer 2s.
Mm. Interesting question. You'll never know because Rolex doesn't release numbers. With Swatch, you might Swatch Group / Tissot, you might have better luck.
Yeah, I'm putting together a video where I'm sort of tabulating what the rough breakdown of Rolex's production is, just from observations by ADs, like how many they get in rough proportion. So, for example, 50% Datejust, 50% professional models. Of those, you get a breakdown of like, 2-1 for two-tone, 3-1 with precious metal, and that kind of thing. For every Submariner, for every 3 Submariners, there's 1 Daytona. So it's sort of math like that to sort of reverse get a breakdown. I'd be extremely surprised after subdividing all of Rolex's production of say 1.2 million, there would be more than 5% that are Explorer 2s. Would sound plausible. So that would be in the order of like 50,000.
Mm.
Although that seems high. It probably is like, yeah. At least it might be an upper bound. And I know the PRX is a fantastic watch. I imagine a lot of people don't really know what it is. They buy it just on site. It's a lovely watch wherever you can find it. I certainly really like the two-tone. Not really into two-tone normally, but the PRX's two-tone is really nice.
And that's also the quartz version, right?
No, I think the two-tone is only in
Okay.
automatic. It's got a white dial. Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
one. I think that's cool.
All right.
Yeah, I like it mostly for the dial. Yeah, the gold's fine, but I really like the dial.
Yeah, because they don't have that white waffle dial in another model.
Exactly. Exactly.
Mm.
Yeah, just a straight white. It's a really cool look.
I think the green dial is kind of nice, honestly. Blue, predictably, I like it because it reminds me of a watch that I really like. But I think that that's too close for comfort, of course. Yeah, to me, ultimately, that's what it is, because I have, like, since age 18, basically, I've always wanted an Audemars Piguet Royal Oak, and I still haven't gotten one for one reason or another. I guess I could, at some point, sell most of my collection and get one nice Royal Oak.
Is there a keeper graph in your mind where the price of these Royal Oaks are starting to
Yes.
become more available and it's
Yes.
getting in striking distance?
There's one particular reference that is quite unique, an interesting combination of the, yeah, I'm not going to give too much away, but exactly what I like, basically, but not as widely available, nothing in the current catalog, and this is how we like them. Much cheaper than what the current ones sell for, even at retail, and it's coming down even more. If that goes, if that goes another, if that dips down another 20-30%, I might be able to get one without having to move any, which is something that I really don't want to do, because I mean, it has taken me a few years, in each case, to research and seek out and find the piece I like. So
Yeah. What's the liquidation order in your collection?
like what I would get rid of first.
Yeah. First, second, third.
I never wanted to think of that, but okay, let me put it this way. I think the easiest one to get rid of for me, from an emotional standpoint, would be the Lemania chronograph, the 1940s.
You've had that for quite a while, haven't you?
No, that's basically my newest watch.
Oh, okay. It's so new that I confused it for another one.
That might be one of the reasons, because it's new, but also because, okay, I love it. It's a lovely watch, pink gold, small, dime-sized chronograph. It's a beautiful dress watch for the right occasion. But I've mostly bought it for the heritage, right? It's because it uses the legendary CH27 base. So, I can think of it like, okay, I will move this, and at some point I will get something else with that same base, and the world is your oyster. There are so many different choices there that can sing every kind of tune, from simple vintage chronographs to complicated perpetual calendar chronos and everything in between. From Daniel Roth to Breguet to Patek Perpetual Calendar to Roger Dubuis. There's so many options when it comes to that. I can go back to Alemania as well. So that would be the only I can easily see myself moving away from. The second one, if I really force myself, I think would be my Datejust 16014. I have to justify that as well. I think because I guess I have, I already have 4 other Rolexes, and the others I'm more emotionally attuned with. I like having one that is significantly different from everything else, because this is a, late 70s Datejust 36 millimeter, with the white gold fluted bezel, but of course all in stainless steel, silver linen dial. So it's very monochromatic. It's very different than everything else I have in the manner of Rolex. So that would be the second. This is, by the way, the Buchara Blue Special Edition, which is that two-tone execution.
Yeah, I was just looking at it. There's an eBay listing that has one wrist shot that it looks really cool. This is almost like a very bluesy in vibe.
Right. Welcome, Ryan, to the channel. It's nice to see you. It's always nice to see the familiar faces, but it's nice to see new people coming in as well. Lovely to have you on board.
Sold only 888. This seems quite rare. There's an eBay listing for 1200. Yeah, a little confusing to me.
Yeah, this Chrono 24 listing is almost 1500.
Wow. Because I've been to Buchara here in Vegas, and they don't sell Tissot. So I don't know where these came up, except for online, maybe. For me, Liquidation, Speedmaster, Man on the Moon. I'm really not that enthused by it ultimately. And while I have been trying to wear it and, bond with it and make some memories, the most significant of which was my US citizenship oath. Yeah, I could still easily let it go. If I want something for racing, quote unquote, I do something, along those lines. You go to a motorsport event or something like that. I'd rather wear the Daytona. Yeah, it's a pretty easy one.
No, honestly, I think on the one hand, you want to say it doesn't have to be one or the other, but when it comes to iconic chronographs, if you have one, do you really need another one unless you are a chronograph collector or something?
Yeah, they're very different looks, but if it's sort of I'm wearing it because of a specific theme, then the themes overlap too much. So yeah,
No, I agree. I agree. There are different looks. I mean, if you look into it, because I had in mind, the Daytona, Speedmaster, Navitimer, Breguet Type 20. What would be a fifth entry? What would be your entry to that top five classic chronographs? Hoya Monaco. Let's say that.
Yeah.
Just to have something different, and not to disrespect it. I think it's enough heritage to go by there. Of course, Hoya is racing. It is associated with the Steve McQueen cool. Then you have Daytona, again, the racing heritage, but kind of the apocryphal story of competing in the horological space race, hence the name Cosmograph. You have, of course, Speedmaster, which was designed as a racing chronograph, but made it to the moon and became the moon watch. And then you have Breguet Type 20, which was something that was made to French Ministry of Defense's specifications and is really a, Flieger Chrono, the pilot's chronograph. You can say the same thing about the Navitimer, even though it has also been worn by astronauts in different configurations. Of course, Scott Carpenter's Cosmonaut is legendary. Navitimer 806 has been the unofficial team watch of Team Lotus. Both Jim Clark and Graham Hill wore one. So you have both different purposes and some overlap between them, even though they have really different designs.
Mm.
In my collection, in my mind, since I have the Type 20, I don't know if I would want to have a Speedmaster.
Mhm. Yeah, it almost feels like an obligation to have one.
You know who did that? You know who did that?
Yes, yeah, I know. It's the
No,
next one.
it was Archie. It was Archie.
Yeah, absolutely. The next one to liquidate for me would be probably a diver. Which one exactly? I don't know. Professor, how you doing?
Hey, hello guys.
Buenos días, el famoso profesor.
Buenos días. Buenos días.
How are you?
Okay. Give me 2 minutes to be in full form.
Okay.
Of course. And then we have about half an hour, so you better pack
Half an hour.
Yeah.
No problem. I'll give you my best.
Thank you, sir.
Out of the divers, it's hard to say. I really like them all. So I got the Black Bay 58 on today. The Pelagos is still lovely.
Let us see it a little bit closer. Yeah. Man.
Yeah, so the Pelagos is really nice. I think it's going to be one of my two Submariners, and then that would mean I'm getting rid of the black one. I really love the black one though, but if it had to happen, I guess that would be it. Maybe the Explorer 2. It was the last on my collecting list for not for a good reason, but it was last. And I think it's just not a very versatile watch. It's a fun watch. It's a true luxury to me. Like it's just for fun. It's really just there for fun.
Yeah, and again, I think the 42 millimeter version is for most wrists. I think that's really a statement piece. It's really outsized. I prefer the older version. I think that's a more versatile watch, but yeah, I can see that. Certainly.
Yeah, I think it's just such a different beast, really. The 42, it's just big, bold, and very tool-like without any real compromise. So yeah, I went hiking on the weekend with it.
On the rubber strap.
Yeah.
Nice.
It stays on the rubber because honestly, with the steel bracelet, it's my wrist's too small to keep it on the steel. The rubber just works better.
By the way, we are in a way, when you are talking about this liquidation, basically eliminating until we come to the last two. Take another turn, and then come back to me for my next one.
Okay. And then it gets to some hard ones after that. Honestly, I think I'd have to eliminate another diver. Probably the Pelagos. I don't see any reason to let go of the Black Bay 58, but yeah, it would probably have to be the Pelagos just because I really like the Black Bay 58 just a little bit more.
I think Black Bay 58 kind of, when you go into the history of Rolex divers and Submariners specifically, and you look at the big crown, right? If you make that connection between the Rolex Submariner 65 38, Big Crown, or also called James Bond, of course, it's hard to not love Black Bay 58 as a modern iteration of that pays some significant homage to it.
Yeah, very
Especially
much.
the black original version.
So just a little bit of ASMR. There we go.
Nice.
Tudors do a really good job with these bezels. Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah, Tudor is good. I like Tudor. All right, my next one, and this is, by the way, a topic that the professor would like, because he's trying to advocate for everyone just having one watch, one good watch.
One watch. I told I told them in Geneva, I believe in one watch. They all looked at me and they said, "You must be sick. We're selling all these watches to all these people who think they have a collection."
Yeah, it's you are going to become like Akhenaton, who was the monotheistic pharaoh. So you are going to be the monohorological prophet now.
Prophet, I don't know, but yeah, why not? In difficult times, get one watch. In any case, you have one.
I've been wearing the black sub a lot. Just like, I think I went like 10 days straight with just the black sub. So it's a good watch to just have as one. That's a good one.
I think the next one, now things are becoming really difficult, right? Because now I have 8, right? The 5 Rolexes, and then Breguet Type 20, Lemania CH27, and the Reverso, Jaeger-LeCoultre Reverso Grand Date. I'm not, it's not going to be the Submariner. It's not going to be the Reverso Grand Date. It's not going to be the Breguet Type 20 either. We have already eliminated Lemania. We have eliminated the Datejust. Next one has to be GMT Master 2, Coke 167.
Oh, that's painful.
It is. But we are gonna make it at least to 3, down to 3.
Yeah. Interesting. So that came before the root beer. Interesting.
Yeah, and it came before the Polar as well.
Yeah. On mine, I still have to liquidate the divers, so I'll just list them all. I'll take my turn and just get down to 1 at least. So Pelagos was last round. Get rid of Black Bay 58, and then get rid of my black sub. Even though I love the black sub the most, I will not let go of the Hulk. I just can't.
Wise choice.
But I would let go of the black sub before the other watches, even though I formed most sentimentality about it. It just doesn't make sense to hold on to the black sub when I've got the Hulk. Like I'd be talking about dropping an Explorer or something like that. It's like, no, I wouldn't do that.
And again, I think some people might get into, from the reverse side of things, some people might get into the impression, the prices are dropping now from the exorbitant levels that they have risen during the hype. That doesn't mean that the Hulk is going to crash all the way down and go under retail for contemporary Submariners and stay there, or maybe even, no, guys. I mean, historically, unless we are heading towards certain apocalypse, which we might well be, discontinued and unique Rolex models, if they're in some sort of limited production, limited quantity. And to be honest, there are, relatively speaking, a lot of Hulks out there. It's not that limited still, though. It's not going to be made anymore. that's still going to have a certain premium. So let's not scare people into selling their Hulks. Let's not do that. I know the marketeers would have a field day with that, but yeah, hold on to your Hulk, especially if you like it, if you wear it, if you
Yeah.
love it, like
and
Ozzy.
it's a birthday watch for my son eventually, and I like it a lot.
Can I advise something
Yes, sir.
for everyone? This is the wrong time to be selling watches. This is absolutely the worst time, because it's like a falling knife. When stocks fall and they fall by 20-30%, this is not the time to be selling unless you're running a fund and you have investors who are calling you. You shouldn't be doing it, because you will lose. You will definitely lose, because all these watches acquired probably were acquired in the gray market, unless you are very wealthy. If you are very wealthy and you bought them from your AD, you don't give a penny, to put it politely, about a 20% decline on your 10 watches, or 30% or 50%.
Yeah.
So this is the wrong time to be selling. Having said this, it's also the time to be thinking of, what should be the one watch or the two watches that you should be acquiring in the next, year, if you have the ability. But this is not the time to be selling.
Mm.
If you
Yeah,
haven't
I agree.
sold 6 months ago, 8 months ago, don't sell now, because things will get worse. But how worse can they get? I mean, watches are not going to go to zero. All that is happening is their pricing and the markets are going back to the old normal. The normal was not what we experienced over the last 2 years. And my advice, as I said to Ozzy as well, when he was asking for his Daytonas, he walks into his AD, he commands a lot of power today. Forget what they say. They're useless. All these ADs, they will sell you any watch you want, even the Daytona. The precious one, they will die in 6 months for you to go and get two of them.
I think so.
Needless of one, the one they will sell it to you immediately. But if you go in 6 months and you ask for two, they'll say, "Look, we have a steel Daytona ready for you as well. Would you
Yeah,
like to buy it?"
100%. No, well, I'd expect 2 steel Daytonas,
Yes,
honestly.
yes,
Like,
and
But by the way, I love this clarification. I love the insistence by the professor. Hopefully, no one was taking our thought experiments seriously enough to think that we were actually in the market of offloading our watches. I certainly am not. I have prefaced the whole conversation by saying, like, since it takes me so long to decide on what to get, since I research so much into every single piece, I'm not moving any one of them anytime soon. But I think it's an interesting thought exercise, because again, with all due respect to the audience, since we know each other's collection, we have a certain familiarity. So it's nice to work our way backwards, but it's not available to you immediately. So we apologize for that. But I think this is an interesting thought exercise. Can I go next, or
yeah, you got it next. So I've cleared out all the divers except the Hulk.
I think next up is 16570, the Polar Explorer 2. That's what I would eliminate.
Yeah,
so
maybe you can pick it up again in 5 years.
I'm finally left with 5513, my father's Submariner from late 60s, Root Beer 16753 with the nipple dial from early 80s. Breguet Type 20, post Swatch 2001. They were nice enough to respond to my email from the archive, so more power to them. Not a very detailed explanation or an official extract, but I'm
Mm.
glad they provide that service for free. My Jeju Lecoultre Grand Dates 2002. That is, I love that piece. So that makes 3. What else do we have? We got rid of the date chest. We got rid of the Lemania CH27. We got rid of the Polar Explorer 2. We got rid of the GMT Master 2 Cope. Yeah, that's what we have left now. Sub, GMT Master Root Beer, Breguet, and JLC Grand Date.
Mhm.
Wow, it's getting sad. I'm already feeling miserable.
So I've already got rid of the Explorer 2, all the divers except for the Hulk. The next on the chopping block, and the Speedmaster was first. So I forgot about that already. Explorer 1 makes its way out the door, leaving me with a Batgirl, the Daytona Panda, and a Hulk. And I'll take the next step too. The Batgirl that would go. I've never worn it actually. It's sized for my wife, so it would. That's an easy one.
I remember
It'll
that.
go.
I remember that.
There may
Okay.
be an opportunity next year for her to gift it to me. We'll see.
Ah.
No,
Uh-huh.
let me say something about the Explorer 2. I really like it, especially, of course, Ozzy, you're younger and you don't have eyesight problems, but as you age, you will. The beauty about the 42 is that you can see the dial, you can see the indices.
Oh, it's huge.
For somebody like me,
Yeah.
I can really say, aha, now I see it.
It's it's interesting. So it still has a bezel, so there's still room that like a Datejust 41 or an OP41 might have a bigger dial, but they don't have like the big hulking indices like the Explorer 2 does.
Yeah, it's a nice watch. But the other interesting bit is that I was, prices are coming down, so this is good. This is in the gray market. So what I'm seeing is that the Panda, you can pick it up for now 26.
Yeah, I'm seeing things in free fall right now. Honestly, it looks like free fall. Yeah.
Where can you give us a quick sweep or scoop of let's say the Batgirl, Batman? What are they going for?
Let me eliminate one last thing, and we at least conclude.
Eliminate, yes.
Yeah, it has to be the root beer. So I'm left with this 3 is good enough for me. It's 5513 Submariner, Reggae Type 20, and JLC Reverso Grand Date.
That's cool.
If I have to.
How does it make you feel?
Like shit.
Naked.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. No, to me, the thought of only having the Hulk and a Daytona, so 2-piece collection, I think that might be cool. It's funny because it's only a subset of my collection, but if I'm only switching between the Daytona and the Hulk, I think that would be really cool.
I'll tell you what I'll have, the one watch. One watch.
Yeah.
So it will be the Datejust, either yellow gold, green dial, or platinum.
Oh, you mean the day date?
Day date.
Day date.
Day date.
Yeah, I mean, look, one watch for me is a less sad scenario, actually.
Really?
Now that we chopped everything down like this, it hurt a little more. But if you ask me, hey, would you let your collection go maybe for a noble purpose at some point, for a great cause, or God forbid, one is on my wrist and the rest gets stolen or destroyed or burns away in a fire, lost some other way. If you say you are just left with the Submariner 5513, I'm happy for the rest of my life. I can live with
Yeah,
that.
yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, yeah, I could definitely do those two. For me, I think the sub is a little bit too garish for for the finer things in life, like going out to a show or going out to a nice restaurant. I think the Hulk is just a little, it just isn't there for that, and that's what the Daytona would be for. And then the Daytona is actually a relatively good everyday watch too, so it's really not just relegated to special occasion watch. So it's good with a t-shirt. You know, it's good in a lot of things, but you know, in general, I'd probably still be leaning towards the diver a bit more.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. And also, I mean, the Daytona case, both in terms of its profile and its real proportions, compared to the Hulk case, which is the super sub case, I think is much, I mean, it's significantly smaller, noticeably smaller, let's put it like that. And if you ask me, a little more elegant too. So even the way it
Yes.
sits on the wrist is a little different.
Yeah, the watch that has suffered the most in terms of wrist time since getting the Daytona has been the Explorer one. The Explorer one I would put on if I wanted something a little bit more, a little smaller than all of the other watches and a little bit more refined, a little bit more, a little classier. But in many cases, the Daytona is a more appropriate watch. So it's really stolen a lot of wrist time from the Explorer more than any other watch.
By the way, I don't, since we were in a conversation, I didn't check my email, but I Love Maldives sent me a very generous PayPal contribution and a wish for my birthday. So I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Happy
Thank you.
birthday.
And we are going to celebrate tomorrow, Professor, in so I hope you can join then as well.
Oh, cool.
Tomorrow I'll be there. I'll be there. What time do we start? Like 4 a.m. UK time?
I think I will start very early this time, maybe early in the day, and run a marathon. I don't know. Maybe I will.
Oh, wow.
One crazy plan I had, I haven't decided yet. Depends on how I feel in the morning. I might just get half a dozen bottles of liquor and get into, because I'm still not settled in the new place, get a hotel room and just drink and stream for the entire day.
Drink and stream. Okay, I thought you were going to say drink and strip. Okay, yes.
I can strip too, but the camera has to be off. Camera has to be off.
Okay, very good, excellent. I can do the drinking as well, but coffee, because I, as a good Muslim, I don't drink.
Seriously? I don't know. I mean, like, all due respect, if
No, I just
if you
don't
are
drink.
in fact observing
No,
something, but
no. I'll be there. Okay.
This is what I Love Maldives wanted us to bring up. I love sector dial watches by and large. Some years back, there was a great Patek Philippe Calatrava, an anniversary model with a sector dial in stainless steel that must be trading like crazy in the secondary market now. We can check that too, that I fell in love with. I really like the Jaeger-LeCoultre Master Control anniversary model. That was for the 45th year. Wait. This one, look, I mean, I like it, but I've always had a hard time with the hands. I feel like they're too big for the face of that watch? Is it just me? What do you guys think?
No, they're okay.
Okay.
Yeah, they're okay. However, I'm not sure the difference between the hour hand and the minute hand is enough. Like, they're pretty close. Like, they're exactly the same shape, and then the lengths are not overtly different. Like they both cross over a point in the same way. Maybe if the hour hand just barely touched the hour ring as opposed to going over it, it would offer sort of a slight visual difference, because both of them have the tips of the hands crossing over a boundary, so they visually look like they're doing the same thing. But I do like how they've done a reasonably good job, and I'm sure in person, maybe there are differences too of matching the blue printed dial with blued hands.
Very nice. Yeah. I think, again, exactly what you said, but a little differently. I think both can benefit, both the minute hand and the hour hand can benefit from being a little shorter. To me, they're a little too large for that sector dial layout, but that's just me. It's just an aesthetic nitpick. Personal opinion doesn't really matter.
Is there a marking in the middle of the dial just above the pinion, the AG925? Is this signifying a silver dial?
That's right, my friend. It is actually a dial from silver, sterling silver. In fact, AG925 is sterling grade, no?
I think so.
Otherwise, the dimensions of the case are perfect for the kind of watch it is, right under 40 millimeters. It's less than 12 millimeters thick. So, I think this can be a great everyday wearer, great office watch. Can be an interesting kind of dynamic version of a dress watch as well, in the right setting, and with a darker strap, I want to say.
Talking about materials, like as you know, I was shopping for a ring for my wife, and I'm not really into rings. I'm trying my best, but ideally, I think I would just like a nicer steel ring. And I asked them, do you guys make steel rings? And it was like, they very much scoffed as, no, only gold, only, blah, blah, blah. And that sort of, I wonder if that's how it truly was back when, the first luxury watches were made in steel. It's like, wait, why did you even ask for that? Why would we ever make a luxury watch in steel?
I will put it this way. I mean, there are a few ways of approaching that. If we are talking about, for example, a brand like Patek, when you move on to even early years of serial production, the steel examples are rare, because they're usually pieces that were produced for that special kind of customer, who knew what he exactly wanted and whose interests that they would cater to. So
wow,
it's more rare, because they're usually special order. If you want like a hand-wound chronograph from Patek in the 30s or 40s, and you want to have it in stainless steel, you have to special order it. So that's one way of looking at it, and they would only do that to people who have a certain kind of in, I guess. And same thing with dress watches too. I'm assuming a lot of the Calatravas are much more rare in stainless steel, even if they are not necessarily special orders. I'm guessing they would be reserved for the cognoscenti who just know what they exactly want, like you, right? Like you asking for a stainless steel ring rather than gold. But of course, Patek would tell you that, yeah, we can sell you a stainless steel version of that watch, but it will be the same price.
Right.
Yeah, may I say something about this one in particular?
Yes, sir. I just want to fix myself. I said, for whatever reason, 45th anniversary. This is the 25th anniversary model of the Master Control series, the JLC Master Control sector dial. Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is reminiscent of the 5296 Patek.
This,
If you
no.
take out
Omega's was this. It's a different watch. The syringe hands make it completely.
the previous one. The previous one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No, not this one. Yeah, this one.
So this looks actually almost exactly like the 5296. Let's pull it up.
Exactly. This is my watch.
This is better designed. I'm sorry. I mean, the hands. This is the proportion of the hands that should.
Yeah. I actually have this watch.
You do?
Yeah. It was a gift.
What else have you been hiding from us, Professor?
No, I wear it, but I wear it when I keep it in Greece, and I wear it when I go there. I don't have it with me, but it was a gift from a state visit by the president. So
nice.
It's not engraved or anything. Yeah.
Professor, didn't they make exactly this or something like this in steel for a limited edition run as well, or am I mistaken?
I don't know. I don't know. I would be misleading everyone.
Let me see. Maybe I can finally find it because I was trying to see it in the background.
But I funny enough, it's very understated, this watch. You wear it and nobody takes notice of this. And of course, it has never been hyped, although discontinued. I'm very happy with this watch, and I go to the supermarket, to whatever, and I wear the watch.
Okay, it's another model. And a little bit of a different design, of course, both in terms of the dial layout and the hands, but this is quite gorgeous as well. It's what I had in mind was 5565, namely 5565A. A for acier, of course.
Yeah.
For steel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love this one as well. Limited edition of 300 to commemorate the opening of the new Geneva Salon from 2007, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. I remember this one also. Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, all of the examples that we showed are very discreet, classy, elegant dress watches. You know, my taste pulls me over to something like this, or the JLC Master Control Date, which is the 25th year anniversary model, for the Master Control series, with the beautiful sector dial and syringe hands like this. But I think they're all quite beautiful. I like the Omega as well. If only the hands were a little smaller, like better proportioned like this, I would be all over that as well.
I'll show it to you next time I go back. I'll show you the Patek.
That would be great. Guys, we have just crossed my threshold for tonight. I really do need to get some sleep. Long day tomorrow, both including the stream and some early work I need to do before I start it. I will most certainly be with you guys at 7 p.m. PST, so 7 p.m. Los Angeles time, but I will try to come up with something to see if I can start an earlier marathon. We will see. Let me post the link in either case for that stream. I appreciate you all being with me for tonight, especially my friends here on the panel, Aussie Expat and El Famoso Profesor. I appreciate you both. Everyone who contributed in the chat, super chatted, especially like Full On John, like KB, like JB, and everyone who contributed somehow to the discussion as well. I appreciate you and I love you. Tomorrow's celebration is here, provided in the link. Please be my guest. We'll have a lot of fun. Feel free to jump on the panel, especially then, even if you have never been part of the show. I think it will be a great fun, some great conversation. Of course, we are going to talk about watches, but we are also celebrating, one, my birthday, two, which is much more important, the fact that we have monetized this channel, crossed the threshold of 1,000 subscribers now, at 1,250 in fact, and we have done the same thing in Instagram as well. So the empire is growing, and hopefully will become something else before we know it. It has only started in February, so I think we're doing quite well for our size. In either case, I will see you all tomorrow. Thank you again. I love Maldives for your contribution. Thank you for directing our attention towards the end of the show with to these sector dial dress watches. That was a lot of fun. Any last words, Aussie, or?
No, I don't know. You definitely didn't help me in terms of desiring more Rolexes. That's the problem. I need more, not less. So we gotta focus on less liquidation and more gluttony next time.
Right. Tomorrow we will talk, because we didn't get to talk about what your more recent experiences or exchanges with your sales associate was in now 2 different ADs you're telling me. So we'll have to catch up about that tomorrow. Professor, do you have anything?
I'm good to go.
All right. Well, lovely to see everyone. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Until then, I bid you adieu. Thank you for your presence and support, and please hit that like button on the way out. Take care, guys.